Okay, so remember that scene in Avengers Endgame where Loki just grabs the Tesseract and vanishes?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Well, today we're diving deep into Loki Season 1 and finding out what happens next.
That's right. We're going to explore all those alternate timelines and different versions of Loki,
Plus the organization that claims they can control time itself.
the TVA.
Exactly. The Time Variance Authority.
Mhm.
But before we go any further, we need to remember this isn't the same Loki that, sacrifices himself in Infinity War.
Good point.
This Loki is from 2012, before his whole redemption arc.
Yeah, he's still the god of mischief, we know, and love, but he hasn't had those experiences that kind of, soften him up in the later movies.
Right. He's pulled out of time by the TVA and dropped right into their weird world.
It's time travel and bureaucracy all rolled into one.
With those time doors, retro-futuristic technology, rows and rows of desks. It's a strange mix of the ordinary and the cosmic.
The TVA say they protect the sacred timeline, the one true timeline that they think should exist. And anything that deviates from that creates what they call a nexus event,
A nexus event,
which they then have to eliminate along with the person who caused it.
who they call a variant.
Exactly.
So they're basically like time cops,
Yeah.
making sure everyone sticks to the script.
Pretty much. But as Loki digs deeper into the TVA, things get a little more unsettling.
It is interesting how the show plays with our expectations.
Definitely.
Here's Loki, the god of mischief, being judged by an organization claiming to uphold order.
A total role reversal.
And then you've got Sylvie, a female Loki variant, who really has it out for the TVA.
Sylvie's backstory adds so much depth to the show. Unlike our Loki, she was taken by the TVA as a child.
Wow.
So her whole life has been shaped by their control, and that's led to her rebelling against them.
Her relationship with Loki is also super intriguing.
Definitely.
They're technically the same person,
Right.
but they're so different because of their experiences.
Absolutely.
They're drawn to each other, but it's way more complicated than just romance.
It's more like they're confronting different parts of themselves.
That's a good way to put it.
Sylvie embodies all that rage and rebellion that Loki tries to suppress.
Right. And by spending time together, they're both forced to face their own vulnerabilities.
Like on Lamentus 1,
Oh, yeah.
they're trapped, facing certain doom. Talk
Yeah.
about high stakes.
That scene was so intense, and it really shows how much they need each other, even when they're disagreeing.
It's where their connection really grows.
Definitely. Their dynamic is one of the best parts of the season. And you can't forget Loki's interactions with Mobius.
Oh, Mobius.
Owen Wilson is just fantastic in that role.
He really is.
He brings this really laid-back charm to the TVA, and his way of dealing with Loki is so unexpected.
Instead of trying to overpower him, he actually tries to understand him.
Which is so interesting to see.
Their scenes are so witty, and there's this underlying tension.
Yeah. You can tell Mobius is fascinated by Loki.
Absolutely.
And Loki is intrigued and annoyed by Mobius's constant attempts to analyze him.
It's a great dynamic. And their partnership leads to some big discoveries.
Like finding out that the TVA agents are actually mind-wiped variants.
Huge twists.
That really blew my mind.
It really makes you question everything you thought you knew about the TVA.
It makes Mobius and Hunter B-15 really question where their loyalties lie.
It definitely sets the stage for the biggest reveal of all.
Who's behind the TVA?
Exactly.
He Who Remains.
And this is where things get crazy.
He Who Remains, played by the amazing Jonathan Majors, is actually a variant of Kang the Conqueror.
Who comic book fans know is a really powerful villain.
So powerful.
He says he created the TVA to prevent a multiversal war.
A war between his own evil variants.
Right. But is he telling the truth, or is this just another power grab? That's the question that sticks with you after Sylvie makes her choice.
Right. Sylvie decides to kill He Who Remains,
Driven by her need for revenge against the TVA.
even though Loki warns her not to.
And it has big consequences.
Yeah. The timeline splits, creating tons of branches. The sacred timeline, the one the TVA was supposed to protect, is gone.
And Loki finds himself back in the TVA.
But it's not the same TVA he left.
Mobius doesn't recognize him. Everything feels different.
Like he's in some alternate version of the TVA.
Exactly. It's a great cliffhanger that leaves us with more questions than answers.
What happens to the multiverse now? And what about Loki in this new reality?
And let's not forget about Ravonna Renslayer.
Oh, yeah. The judge from Loki's trial.
She disappears trying to find free will.
Where did she go? Who is she working with?
Her motivations are a total mystery. And while we're talking about mysteries,
Oh, yeah.
did you catch all the Easter eggs throughout the season?
Of course. Like Throg.
Frog.
the frog version of Thor,
Voiced by Chris Hemsworth.
and the Infinity Stones just being used as paperweights.
Those little details add a lot of fun to the show.
They remind us that even with this mind-bending plot, Marvel doesn't forget to have a little fun with the audience. We've covered a lot, but we've only scratched the surface of Loki Season 1.
There's still so much to discuss.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Loki Season 1.
So we just scratched the surface of all the crazy twists in Part 1.
Right, but now we really want to dig into what makes this show so good.
I think beyond the time travel and the different realities,
Right.
Loki is really a story about identity growth and free will.
Exactly. This version of Loki starts off as such a selfish trickster.
Always scheming, always manipulating people.
But when he's forced to confront his past and his future,
Yeah.
we start to see him change.
I think that scene where Mobius shows him his future,
Oh, yeah.
Frigga's death, his reconciliation with Thor,
That's a powerful scene.
it makes him realize he could actually be good.
A side of himself he's been hiding for centuries.
It's really interesting how the TVA, this organization obsessed with control,
Right.
actually makes Loki start to look inward and grow as a person.
It's like they accidentally did him a favor.
And speaking of the TVA, their look isn't just for show.
Oh, yeah, their aesthetic is so cool.
It's very deliberate. It reinforces those themes of control and manipulation.
Yeah, the TVA headquarters is so sterile and almost oppressive.
It reflects their belief in one single timeline. Everything is perfectly ordered.
Just like the lives they want to force on the variants.
Even little things like using the Infinity Stones as paperweights.
That was such a cool detail.
It shows how the TVA takes these incredibly powerful objects and reduces them to nothing,
Right. It's a total contrast to the endless possibilities of the multiverse.
which he who remains is so desperate to control.
Speaking of He Who Remains, his motives are so hard to figure out.
Right. He's not just some villain trying to take over the universe.
Yeah, he claims he wants to stop this multiversal war.
This huge conflict that could destroy reality itself.
But can we really trust him?
That's the big question hanging over the whole season.
Is he actually good, or is he just another power-hungry manipulator?
And Sylvie definitely doesn't believe him.
She's driven by her own anger towards the TVA.
Who took her from her life and her reality. Right.
So her choice to kill He Who Remains is a major turning point.
It's fueled by revenge.
But it has consequences. It unleashes the chaos of the multiverse.
And what about the TVA itself? Are they really the good guys trying to keep things in order?
Or are they this tyrannical organization squashing free will and using people to get what they want?
Loki makes us really think about who has power and how they use it.
The TVA seems all sleek and efficient at first.
Yeah, they present themselves as a force for stability.
But as the season goes on, you start to question their methods.
The fact that their agents are mind-wiped variants,
That's a game changer.
it shows the dark side of what they do.
And it forces Mobius and Hunter B-15 to face the truth about the organization they've given their lives to.
It raises those questions about identity and free will.
If your memories are fake, who are you really?
It's a question that makes you think even outside of the show.
Loki doesn't shy away from those tough questions.
About good versus evil,
Free will versus destiny.
and the consequences of trying to control time itself.
All right, so welcome back for the last part of our deep dive on Loki Season 1.
We've talked about the twists and turns and all those wild concepts, but now we have to ask, what does it all mean?
Not just for Loki, but for the whole MCU.
Yeah, Season 1 of Loki wasn't just some standalone adventure.
No way.
It really opened up the multiverse.
And we're still seeing those effects.
In all these other Marvel movies and shows.
Absolutely. Like, we got to see those different Spider-Man and Spider-Man. No Way Home.
Right. And then Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness showed us what happens when you mess with reality.
Seriously.
Loki was that bridge connecting those more grounded stories to the big multiversal adventures we're getting now.
It introduced us to variants, those alternate versions of ourselves.
From different timelines.
It makes you think, what if there's another me out there living a totally different life?
It's a pretty crazy concept.
It really is. And it brings up those questions about free will versus destiny.
Right.
Is everything already decided, or do we have the power to choose our own path?
Loki's journey throughout the season really explores that idea.
He starts out believing he's meant to rule to be a conqueror.
Right. But then he's shown another possibility.
A path where he finds love and deals with loss and even becomes a hero.
And even after seeing all that,
He still ends up fighting for control.
it shows that even when you think you've escaped your past, it can still influence you.
And the TVA represent that whole struggle between free will and control.
They're so focused on maintaining their version of order,
Right.
that they'll erase entire realities and manipulate people.
To achieve their goals.
Which takes us back to that question, are they really the good guys?
They claim they're protecting the timeline, preventing chaos.
But their methods are brutal.
And they're so secretive with zero accountability.
It's easy to see why someone like Sylvie, who's been controlled by the TVA,
Would want to destroy them.
but by doing that, she unleashed something even more unpredictable, the multiverse.
Her choice to kill he who remains was a huge risk.
It was driven by a need for freedom and revenge.
But did she actually create a bigger threat than the one she eliminated?
Only time will tell. And speaking of He Who Remains,
Oh man, that reveal that he's a variant of Kang the Conqueror.
that's a big deal.
Huge.
Comic book fans know that Kang is a major villain.
He can manipulate time and conquer whole realities.
Exactly. And we've already seen a Kang variant in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania,
Right.
and he's going to be the main villain in the next Avengers movie, The Kang Dynasty.
Loki really set the stage for this whole new era of threats.
Multiversal threats.
It's exciting and kind of scary to think about what's coming next in the MCU.
But one thing's for sure, Loki is right in the thick of it.
He's stuck in a TVA that doesn't even know him.
Led by a Kang variant we've never seen before.
What's he gonna do? What will he become?
That's what's so brilliant about Loki Season 1. It doesn't give us all the answers.
No.
It leaves us with more questions, which makes us want to see what happens next.
And keeps us thinking about the show long after it's over.
It makes you question everything you thought you knew about the MCU, and maybe even about reality itself.
And we can't wait to see how Loki's story continues in Season 2 and beyond. Oh, and don't forget, we've got a whole deep dive on Season 2 just waiting for you.
So be sure to check that out.
This has been an amazing journey through time, alternate realities, and all these big ideas. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Loki Season 1. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you want more deep dives on your favorite shows. We're always looking for new adventures.